Black Wall Street Book Club. Evan Jefferson, brother, much love. Educating, elevating, because in knowledge is the power and we'll never give it up. Literature that's for the masses. Where to put your money down, now how to watch your assets. Yeah, uplifting others is a passion. My brother Evan, he will turn it into action. New Black Wall Street Book Club. You should come read with us. Yeah, we comprehend and discuss. If we all just come together, there's no limit for us. Here comes your host, New Black Wall Street. Evan, take it away. New Black Wall Street. New Black Wall Street Book Club.
All right, beautiful people, man. Thanks so much for joining us here today again on our next episode of the New Black Wall Street Book Club, where Black folk do read. You put it in a book, and we absolutely will find it. I'm your host, ERGJ, your certified global financial educator, CEO of ERGJ Enterprise, and also of the Black Bazaar, which you can find links to both of those sites in the description below. What we're going to do today, guys, is continue our journey into the University of Success. This is going to be part 2 of how to increase your value, which is actually lesson number 30. And when we left off last episode, basically we left off with this thought from the author, who is Orison Swett Martin, that there is no excuse for incompetence in this age of opportunity. No excuse for being second class when it's possible to be first class, and when first class is in demand everywhere. So everybody may be joining us here live, watching our broadcast, or maybe catching a replay. Just go put in the comments below, no excuse. There's no excuse. Well, let's continue where we left off at, so we can go ahead and finish up lesson number 30 in this book, The University of Success, which is basically a compilation of great authors, great work compiled by Og Mandino. New Black Wall Street Book Club. Let's read. So there is no excuse for incompetence in this age of opportunity. No excuse for being second class when it is possible to be first class. And when first class is in demand everywhere. Second class things are wanted only when first class can't be had. You wear first class clothes if you can pay for them. Eat first class butter, first class meat, and first class bread. Or if you don't, you wish you could. Second class men are no more wanted than any other second class commodity. They're taken and used when the better article is scarce or is too high priced for the occasion. For work that really amounts to anything, first class men are wanted. If you make yourself first class at anything, no matter what your condition or circumstances, no matter what your race or color, you will be in demand. Let me say that again. If you make yourself first class in anything, no matter what your condition or circumstances, no matter what your race or color, you will be in demand. If you're a king in your calling, no matter how humble it may be, nothing can keep you from success. The world does not demand that you be a physician, a lawyer, a farmer, or a merchant, but it does demand that whatever you do undertake, you will do it right, will do it with all your might and with all the ability you possess. It demands that you be a master in your line. When Daniel Webster, who had the best brain of his time, was asked to make a speech on some question at the close of a congressional session, he replied, "I never allow myself to speak on any subject until I've made it my own. I haven't time to do that in this case, hence I must refuse to speak on the subject." Dickens would never consent to read before an audience till he had thoroughly prepared his selection. Balzac, the great French novelist, sometimes worked a week on a single page. William Macready, when playing before scant audiences in country theaters in England, Ireland, and Scotland, always played as if he were before the most brilliant audiences in the great metropolises of the world. Thoroughness characterizes all successful men. Genius is the art of taking infinite pains. The trouble with many Americans is that they seem to think they can put any sort of poor, slipshod, half-done work into their careers and get first-class products. They do not realize that all great achievement has been characterized by extreme care, infinite painstaking, even to the minutest detail. No extreme youth can ever hope to accomplish much who does not have thoroughness and accuracy indelibly fixed in his life habit. Slipshodness, inaccuracy, the habit of half doing things will ruin the career of a youth with a Napoleon's mind. If we were to examine a list of the men who have left their mark on the world, we will find that, as a rule, it is not composed of those who were brilliant in youth or who gave great promise at the outset of their careers, but rather the plodding young men who, if they have not dazzled by their brilliancy, have had the power of a day's work in them, who could stay by a task until it was done and well done, who have had grit, persistence, common sense, and honesty. The thorough boys are the boys who are heard from, and usually from posts far higher up than those filled by the boys who were too smart to be thorough. One such boy is Elihu Root, now United States Senator. When he was a boy in grammar school at Clinton, New York, he made up in his mind that anything he had to study, he would keep at it until he mastered it. Although not considered one of the bright boys of the school, his teachers soon found that when Elihu professed to know anything, he knew it through and through. He was fond of hard problems requiring application and patience. Sometimes the other boys called him a plodder, but Elihu would only smile pleasantly, for he knew what he was about. On winter evenings, while the other boys were out skating, Elihu frequently remained in his room with his arithmetic or algebra. Mr. Root recently said that if his close application to problems in his boyhood did nothing else for him, it made him careful about jumping to conclusions. To every problem, there was only one answer, and patience was the price to be paid for it. Carrying the principle of doing everything to a finish into the law, he became one of the most noted members of the New York bar, entrusted with vast interest, and then a member of the president's cabinet. William Ellery Channing, the great New England divine who was in his youth, was hardly able to buy the clothes he needed, had a passion for improvement. I wanted to make the most of myself, he says. I was not satisfied with knowing things superficially and by halves, but tried to get comprehensive views of what I studied. Our great lack is a want of thoroughness. How seldom you find a young man or woman who is willing to prepare for his life work. A little education is all they want, a little smattering of books, and then they are ready for business. Can't wait, having time to be thorough. It's characteristic of our country, and it is written on everything. On commerce, on schools, on society, on religious institutions. We can't wait for a high school, seminary, or college education. The boy can't wait to become a youth, nor the youth to become a man. Young men rush into business with no great reserve of education or drill. Of course, they do poor, feverish work and break down in middle life, while many die of old age in the 40s. Perhaps there's no one country in the world where so much poor work is done as in America. Half-trained medical students perform bungling operations and butcher their patients because they are not willing to take time for thorough preparation. Half-trained lawyers stumble through their cases and make their clients pay for experience which the law school should have given. Half-trained clergymen bungle away in the pulpit and discuss the intelligent and cultured parishioners. Many an American youth is willing to stumble through life, half prepared for his work, and then blame society because he is a failure. A young man armed with letters of introduction from prominent men one day presented himself before Chief Engineer Parsons of the Rapid Transit Commission of New York as a candidate for a position. What can you do? Have you any specialty? Asked Mr. Parsons. I can do almost anything, answered the young man. Well, remarked the chief engineer, rising to the end of the interview, I have no use for anyone who can almost do anything. I prefer someone who can actually do one thing thoroughly. There's a great crowd of human beings just outside the door of proficiency. They can do a great many things, but can't do any one thing well to a finish. They have acquisitions which remain permanently unavailable because they were not carried quite to the point of skill. They stop just short of efficiency. How many people almost know a language or two, which they can neither write nor speak, a science or two, whose elements they have not fully mastered, or an art or two, which they cannot practice with satisfaction or profit? The patent office at Washington contains hundreds, yes, thousands of inventions which are useless simply because they are not quite practical, because the men who start them lack the staying quality, the education, or the ability necessary to carry them to the point of practicability. The world is full of half-finished work, failures which require only a little more persistence, a little finer mechanical training, a little better education, or to make them useful to civilization. Think what a lawsuit would be if such men as Edison and Bell had not come to the front and carried to a successful termination the half-finished work of others. Make it a life rule to give your best to whatever passes through your hands. Stamp it with your manhood. Let superiority be your trademark. Let it characterize everything you touch. This is what every employer is looking for. It indicates the best kind of brain. It is the best substitute for genius. It is the better. It is better. It is better capital than cash. It is better. It is a better promoter than friends or pulls with the influential. A successful manufacturer says if you make a good pen, you will earn more money than if you make a bad steam engine. If a man can write a better book, preach a better sermon, or make a better mousetrap than his neighbor, says Emerson, though he build his house in the woods, the world will make a path to his door. Never allow yourself to dwell too much upon what you are getting for your work. You have something of infinitely greater importance, greater value at stake. Your honor, your whole career, your future success will be affected by the way you do your work, by the conscious or lack of it which you put into your job. Character, manhood, and womanhood are at stake, compared with which salary is nothing. Everything you do is a part of your career. If any work that goes out of your hands is skimped, shirked, bungled, or botched, your character will suffer. If your work is badly done, if it goes to pieces, if there's shoddy or sham in it, if there is dishonesty in it, there is shoddy, sham, dishonesty in your character. We are all of a piece. We cannot have an honest character, a complete, untarnished career when we are constantly slipping rotten hours, defective material, and slipshod service into our work. The man who is dealt in shams and inferiority, who has botched his work all his life, must be conscious that he has not been a real man. He cannot help feeling that his career has been a botched one. To spend a life buying and selling lies, dealing in cheap, shoddy shams, or botching one's work, and demoralizing to every element of nobility. Beecher said he was never quite again the same man after reading Ruskin. You're never again quite the same man after doing a poor job, after botching your work. You cannot be just to yourself and unjust to the man you are working for in the quality of your work, or if you slight your work. You not only strike a fatal blow at your efficiency, but also smirch your character. If you would be a full man, a complete man, a just man, you must be honest to the core in the quality of your work. No one can be really happy who does not believe in his own honesty. We are so constituted to every departure from the right, from principle, who are so constituted that every departure from the right, from principle, causes loss of self-respect and makes us unhappy. Every time we obey the inward law of doing right, we hear an inward approval, the amen of the soul. And every time we disobey it, a protest or a condemnation. There is everything in holding a high ideal of your work. For whatever model in mind, the mind holds, the life copies. Whatever your vocation, let quality be your life slogan. A famous artist said he would never allow himself to look at an inferior drawing or painting, to do anything that was low or demoralizing, lest familiarity with it should taint his own ideal and thus be communicated to his brush. Many excuse poor, slipshod work on the plea of lack of time, but in the ordinary situations of life, there's plenty of time to do everything as it ought to be done. There's an indescribable superiority added to the character and fiber of the man who always and everywhere puts quality into his work. There is a sense of wholeness, of satisfaction, of happiness in his life, which is never felt by the man who does not do his level best every time. He is not haunted by the ghosts or tails end of half-finished tasks or skipped problems. It is not kept awake by a troubled conscience. When we are trying to, with all of our might, to do our level best, our whole nature improves. Everything looks down when we are going downhill. Aspirations lift the life. Groveling lowers it. Don't think you will never hear from a half-finished job, a neglected or botched piece of work. It will never die. It will bob up farther along in your career at the most unexpected moments in the most embarrassing situations. It will be sure to mortify you when you least expect it. Like Banquo's ghost, it will arise at the most unexpected moment to mar your happiness. Thousands of people are held back all their lives and obliged to accept inferior positions because they cannot entirely overcome the handicap of slipshod habits formed early in life. Habits of inaccuracy, of slovenliness, or skipping difficult problems in school, of slurring their work, shirking, or half doing it. Oh, that's good enough. What's the use of being so awfully particular? Has been the beginning of a lifelong handicap in many a career. I was much impressed by this model, which I saw recently in a great establishment where only the best is good enough. What a life model this would be. How it would revolutionize civilization if everyone were to adopt it and use it. To resolve that, and whatever they did, only the best they could do would be good enough, would satisfy them. Adopt this model as yours. Hang it up in your bedroom, in your office or place of business. Place it in your pocketbook. Weave it into the texture of everything you do. And your life work will be what everyone's should be. It will be a masterpiece. So again, guys, the motto, where only the best is good enough. Make that, adopt this model as yours. And this will complete our reading here today for part 2 of how to increase your value, coming from the book, The University of Success. I want to say thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. Hopefully you've got something out of it. We don't do this just to do this. We do this to make a difference. And hopefully we've made a difference in your life today. I want to say thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. I want you guys to remember this, that it takes a village. It starts with us. Let's build as we climb together. We all we got, beautiful people. Matter of fact, we all we really need. And thank God, that's more than enough. Until next episode, you know what time it is. Mr. DJ, hit the music.
New black. It's the New Black Wall Street Book Club. With your host, Evan Jefferson. It's time for us to go. Yeah. Now, you ain't got to leave the computer, but we encourage you to get out there and learn and apply all the things you learn at the New Black Wall Street Book Club. Yeah. The New Black Wall Street. The New Black Wall Street Book Club.